against those invidious enemies of reason. Um, so again, let's use Heidegger as our touchstone, but here in a special sense of let's distinguish Heidegger, the rubric or the red letter, from Heidegger, the biographical Heidegger. So Heidegger, the biographical Heidegger, according to Heidegger, is to be distinguished from the zoological Heidegger, and biography is um, of a different entity than the zoological entity, and here we have the distinction which threw the gauntlet of more than 2 millennia comes down to us in terms of psychology, and psychology has ceased to be the Platonic psychology of the thumos type in the center, and the logos and the bios types on the sides, and become the it works or experimental psychology. It's become the psychology of the Popperian notion of does this experiment produce the same result every time, and if so, then according to Popper it's totally irrational, but according to Popper there's a distinction to be made from verification. It happens, we verify it, we say yes, it still happens the same way, the sun rises the same way every day is the usual example given. Let's say something more intelligible. Let's say you flip the light switch and the light goes on, and if it doesn't go on, you know immediately something's wrong, and then there's some electric equipment is wrong, or usually the bulb is, something's wrong with the bulb. So there's a claim by Popper that instead of saying this verifies that this system of electricity is active, he says nothing can ever verify it because the something like the consistency of the universal laws of gravity, of whatever else, is the basic presupposition of any science. And then he says, we can't assume that, because then we wouldn't be truly scientifically be still dogmatic. And then he says, okay, so there's no verification, sensu stricto, but mirabile dictu, there's this thing called verification or something like that. It's not verification. Wait, not verification. It's corroboration. Corroboration. So he comes out with this principle of it's totally absurd logically. It comes out with it says instead of the experiment verifying itself, it corroborates itself. What does that mean? Because it means absolutely nothing in the. Okay, it means something. But then you say to yourself, well, if he's trying to say something that's always true, gravity is supposed to be always true. That's what always means. If gravity is supposed to be always the case, then what does it mean that it's like more probable that it's true? It becomes totally weird, because then it's like, yeah, this is a truth, but actually it's just a probable truth. Therefore, it's a qualified form of truth. Is a qualified form of truth the truth? No, it's something else beside from the truth. Could be true, and so there's this long discussion and so on. So somehow through verbal struggle, Popper has, after the war, brought in alongside the Weberian ideal type, which replaced the Platonic problem of the one and the many. This notion of the corroborating principle. So it's happened this way again. It happened this way again. We build up inductively. We build up evidence for our case. but it's not a very good forensic case. It's not a legal case. It wouldn't pass a criminal court. It might go over in the civil court. And in fact, it does go over in the civil court. So it's considered the best thing we have going, this stupid corroboration principle, but in fact, it's asymptotic and infinite. You can never verify, you can never say this is true. It's always only fundamentally probable. And then under n number of conditions, under the conditions of what kind of, is it probable as a physical truth? Well, no more. Einstein won physical truth, but that's no good. So it must be probable under some kind of Schrodinger two-dimensional linear equation. It must be probable in some non-physical way where you don't have an actual vector. And then all kinds of things come in. So you could see there's somebody that has to keep watch over these paradigms and say, does this paradigm anymore make sense? And this is the person of Sorga, of pain or happiness. And they correspond more to the way something Heidegger is showing along his journey of deconstructing or dismantling in order to reconstruct or not to reconstruct our current way of thinking.